Which players are rising in Dynasty value over the last 30 days? We're talking about that in today's video. As always, guys, if you like Dynasty content, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 1,400 subscribers. It's our monthly Dynasty riser and faller video. Obviously, today we're just talking about risers. We like to do this every single month of the year to kind of keep tabs on the market, right? That's a big thing in Dynasty is keeping tabs on the market. Who's rising, who's falling, when to buy low, when to sell high. And during the offseason, we don't see as much change, especially over the next month or so. We won't see too much change because we're not going to get a lot of news until training camps start. But we truck along. And we're talking about quarterbacks first. And we're talking about Drake May, who Drake May always seems to fluctuate between this QB7 to QB10 range. He goes up, he goes down, he goes up, he goes down. If you're new to the channel, or if you've watched our videos before, you'll know that I'm a big Drake May guy. And if you're new to the channel, well, I'm a big Drake May guy. I think that Drake May, after this year, after this season, this time next year, we're going to be talking about him kind of in that little bit of an untouchable category where you find guys like the Allens, the Daniels, the Jacksons, the Burrows, and the Hurts. And, I think Mahomes has kind of fallen out of that, but those top five guys are kind of untouchable. You can argue Hurts if you want to, and what I mean by untouchable, obviously no one's untouchable, but the situation where it's going to take probably 3 firsts to get those players in a superflex league, and even then, I'm not sure it's enough for guys like Allen and Daniels and Lamar and stuff like that. I think Drake May gets to that level after this season. And the big part of it is just his rushing ability. I mean, the guy has difference making rushing ability. He was on pace for, I believe, about 650 rushing yards if you stat out, the games he played in over 17 game pace, which is legit. Hopefully he can get a few more rushing touchdowns. I don't think he had many heading in or last year. Now the big thing with Drake May is going to be, well, who's he throwing the ball to? I think it's a legitimate concern because a quarterback can be great. But if he doesn't have players to throw the ball to, we've seen it. It doesn't really matter how good you are unless you are, 1,000-yard rusher type of player. I do think the situation for the Patriots, though, is a little bit better. I could see a scenario where it's actually a lot better than we think it is as of right now, June 6th, 90 days away from NFL kickoff. Obviously you have guys like Stephon Diggs, who, if he's healthy and back from that ACL, I don't think he's necessarily going to be elite, number one wide receiver guy, but I think he's going to be a solid veteran contributor. I think you have some good auxiliary pieces in guys like Demario Douglas, who, if he's your wide receiver 3 or 4, that he's going to be pretty good. That's good for the offense. You just don't want him as your wide receiver 1 or 2. Hunter Henry / Austin Hooper are solid players at the serviceable tight ends. Even guys like Kayshon Boutte, who can kind of stretch the field a little bit. And then I think the key, also Travion Henderson is going to help his Drake May's numbers. All you need is 3 or 4, big catch and runs to really boost Drake May's numbers. And then I think the key here is going to be 3rd round rookie Kyle Williams. And I'm a true believer in Kyle Williams. I think he's going to be very, very good kind of from the get-go. And so if he is what I think he's going to be, then I think the situation is a lot better than we expect as of right now. Brock Purdy's up next here from 16 to 13. He's risen a bit, and this is mostly just because of the contract stuff. It doesn't really change what I think of Purdy going into the 2025 season. It does give him a little bit more stability, hopefully tied to Shanahan and this offense for the next several years. But I just kind of view Brock Purdy as like kind of in that giant bucket of players that a lot of quarterbacks fall into, in that, they are good. They're solid QB2s for Superflex. They're not really rushing threats, and any one of them can finish over the other. I'm talking about guys like Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, Jordan Love, Purdy, McCarthy, Lawrence, even guys like Goff, Cam Ward, Baker Mayfield, like all these guys, like they're going to range from like QB 15 to QB 7. Who's going to be QB 7? I can't tell you. It's whoever's going to have that plus touchdown year, most likely. So I get it. He's kind of in the range where I think he's going to be. As soon as he starts approaching the top of that tier of guys, I'm going to try and down tier. I'm going to try and trade him, get another quarterback in return and a piece on top. And I think that's the way to kind of play with Purdy. But right now, he's kind of where he should be, in my opinion. Last quarterback on the list is Spencer Rattler. And I wanted to bring this up mostly because I do think it's a little bit funny how, and I get why it's this way, but the difference between Rattler and Tyler Shuck right now. So I'm in the middle of a startup right now with one of our listener leagues. By the way, if you want to join a potential startup, either redraft or dynasty, make sure to join our Discord. It's free. Link is in the description. Tyler Shuck went round 11. He went at the 11:03. Spencer Rattler went in round 20, right? Pick 8 of round 20. So we're talking about a 9-round difference basically between Shuck and Rattler. And I mean, I get it because Shuck's kind of the new thing. Also, he was a second round pick and Rattler was like a 5th round pick or whatever he was. That being said, like I wouldn't be surprised if Rattler's the starter for the Saints this year. And, at least at the beginning, and then kind of see, let's see what he does. Right. So I don't know. I just think there's some value here with Spencer Rattler. Like if you're doing a dynasty startup, like you can get him pretty late and you could be getting a starter. I mean, he's going around guys who aren't going to start. Mason Rudolph, Will Levis, players like that, the players that aren't going to start. So I think it's just a solid, potential QB4 for you that you're getting really, really late in dynasty startups. Into the running back position, we have Bucky Irving. Bucky is an interesting one because people obviously really like him. He's always going to have the stain of a 4th-round pick on him, which isn't terrible. But like we see it with guys affect players like Isaiah Pacheco. It's easy to just like count him out because he was a 7th-round pick, right? Kyron Williams is another one who theoretically Kyron Williams should probably be ranked in like the top 5 to 7. He's been the best running back combined over the last 2 years in fantasy. But because he was a 5th-round pick, he didn't show out his first year. It just shows you how important these things are. Although maybe we think they're overrated, they aren't. That being said, Bucky Irving did show out his first year, which is why he's kind of comfortably ranked here at the RB7. And it's tough to know like how much Rachaad White's going to come into play next year. They have a new offensive coordinator, which is a big thing. And maybe this offensive coordinator wants to lean on Bucky, especially if there's some struggles in the beginning. And a lot of times when a new offensive coordinator comes, there is a little bit of an adjustment period. Wasn't really like that for the Bucs last year, but it could be this year. And if there is going to be some struggle, maybe he leans on a little bit more of his, better players, right? And I do think Bucky Irving is a better player than Rachaad White. So, I mean, his numbers were pretty impressive last year. I mean, Bucky Irving's 5.4 yards per attempt. He caught almost 50 passes last year. He's averaging 2.8 receptions per game, 8.3 yards per reception, which is anything above 8 for running backs is good. Elite is like above 9, but like really good is above 8. And he was at 8.3. And I don't even think they really like cracked, like even tapped into his full potential as a receiver. It's just really going to be opportunity. Is he going to get a majority of the touches, or is it going to be, it was a little bit less of a split than I think we realized, because Bucky Irving had 254 touches last year, about 15 a game. Rachaad White was kind of significantly lower. Now he did miss a game, but Rachaad White was 195 touches in 16 games. Like I thought it was a lot closer than that. So it's about 12 touches per game for Rachaad White to 15 for Bucky. And really, Bucky came on at the end of the year, and they were kind of using him heavily. So I think he's properly ranked. I'm always looking to sell high when running backs approach this kind of range, but I think he's one player that I'm going to need a little bit of an overpay to get off of him. Josh Jacobs from 16 to 13. And I don't have too much to say about Josh Jacobs here, just that, this is kind of the range that he should be in. I think he's going to get a huge workload, and, he's on the Packers for the next, I think, couple of years now that they are going to keep him for this year. He had a huge year last year, 1,600 total yards, 16 touchdowns. Probably he's probably his second best year in his career. And I think we're just going to kind of see more of that. Like, I think this team really does want to run the ball, and Josh Jacobs is kind of their guy to establish that. He's kind of the identity. I think they want him to be a little bit more of their identity of the offense. I will be interested to see if they try to get Marshawn Lloyd a little bit more involved, or just someone more involved. That being said, like, yeah, Josh Jacobs had 337 touches last year. You go and look at Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, and those guys, like, Emmanuel Wilson had 114 touches last year, and then Chris Brooks had um, 47 touches. So we're talking about kind of the RB2/3 last year for them. Had about 170 touches, 160, 170 touches. So I don't even worry too much if they use Marshawn Lloyd in that kind of role. They're still going to get Josh Jacobs over 300 touches. So, and he's on a good offense, so he's definitely going to have double-digit touchdown potential. Jordan Mason from 45 to 38. We're starting to get a lot of steam on Jordan Mason as a guy like, okay, this is, going to be not just a backup, not just not just like a flex in a heavy bye week. Like, this guy could be, I think people are starting to feel like this guy could be potentially a week to week starter for them, maybe in a little bit deeper leagues. I'm slightly less optimistic. Again, I think he's kind of properly ranked where he is, but I don't really view him as like a potential starter unless it's a really deep league. I do think Aaron Jones is going to get his. I know Aaron Jones was really good last year. I mean, he had over 1,500 total yards last year, which is one of his best seasons, his second best yards from scrimmage total. Caught 50 passes. I think basically how I view it is that I think they want to put Aaron Jones more in that like 250 touch range, so kind of bring him down about 2 touches a game, 2.5 touches a game or so, 2 to 3, I guess I should say, touches a game, and that's probably going to go to Jordan Mason. But unless Jordan Mason's like the goal line guy, I don't really see him being a relevant fantasy option. I think he could rush for like 600-700 yards. This is assuming Aaron Jones is healthy. He's not going to catch that many passes. I mean, he didn't with San Francisco. Aaron Jones is a far better pass catcher than him. He's going to need the touches, really. I think he's going to need the touches or the touchdowns, and so he's going to need to be used in the red zone and the goal line. I just don't know if he will, because like Aaron Jones is a pretty good around the goal line. Like, he had a 3-year stretch there, Aaron Jones did, where he scored 40 touchdowns. So like, he can be a legitimate touchdown guy. I do think the Vikings run the ball a little bit more though. So I definitely could see I definitely could see Jordan Mason approaching 200 touches. But I don't think it's going to necessarily be at the expense of Aaron Jones. Maybe a little bit less volume, but if Aaron Jones can be efficient still, he's still going to be really good. And then the last one here is Jalen Wright, last running back, moving up from 49 to 44. I think it's interesting with the Dolphins backfield. I feel like they kind of want to get back to what they were a couple years ago with their running backs, where they were kind of using an Achane and Mostert like as a 1A, 1B, rather than, Achane touching the ball north of 250 times. I think I don't know if, you look at Achane's game log and stuff, and it's like, I'm not sure if they want to be giving him 20 touches in a game unless he's getting like 6 or 7 of those as catches. And so it's like, who is the RB2? I know they've come out and said they want to give HN more touches, but I think they know what they have. And it's kind of like the Lions situation of like, yeah, is our offense better when HN is on the field every single play? Yes. But he's too valuable to lose to this offense. And so we need to bring in someone else like a David Montgomery to kind of like lighten the load for Jahmyr Gibbs, lighten the load for Achane a little bit. And so, like, is that Jalen Wright? Is that Alexander Madison? Is that Ollie Gordon? There's some options here, but I would lean towards it being Jalen Wright. And I think he's kind of like one of those running backs. You look at who he's ranked around Jalen Wright. It's guys like Garendo, Rashad White, Stevenson, Ray Davis, Devin Neal, like guys that are probably going to need an injury to be anything or anything relevant. Whereas Jalen Wright, I think he's one of the few guys in this range where I don't think he needs an injury, and he could be, a top 24, top 30 running back, and then he has like incredible ceiling, league winning type of ceiling if something happens to Achan, if he is the next guy in line. Into some wide receivers here. We got Jameson Williams is moving up. I'm not 100% sure why Jameson Williams has moved up 7 spots in the rankings. I mean, he's kind of another interesting one where, like, I think he probably falls into that category of like really good NFL wide receivers, solid fantasy players, but never like top 15, top 12 type of guys. I think that's kind of where he falls in personally. Um, Kind of like a Jordan Addison. I think Jordan Addison's in there. I think Xavier Worthy's probably going to be in there, although Worthy has a little bit more potential. Even like a Devontae Smith. I know Devontae Smith, I think, had like a top 15, top 12 season, but like he's probably more as like that player you most likely want as like your wide receiver 3. And if he's playing as your wide receiver 3, you feel great about him. If he's your wide receiver 2, you don't feel as great about him. Now, there is obviously a chance for Jameson Williams to kind of take that next step. We saw kind of the breakout last year, 1,000 total yards, 7 touchdowns. But man, he had like a ridiculous amount of plays and touchdowns where he had like 40 plus, it was 40 plus yard plays and stuff like that. And I don't know if that can be repeated. Could he get some more volume? Sure. There's also the situation of like, he's already coming up on his 4th year. Lions are going to have to make a decision about him soon. Maybe he's going to want to get paid and all of that. So, that's obviously for the future. But for 2025, I kind of view JMO as right around this range, right? Right around this range of players. Of like he'll probably be like a low end wide receiver 2 with some boom bust games. Ricky Pearsall from 36 to 33. I talked about this on a live stream. By the way, join us for our live streams whenever you can. But like Ricky Pearsall is also one of these players. Like it's not even necessarily like a player take on what I think about Ricky Pearsall. But he's in that range where I could really see him increasing his value. Dynasty players are weird. We kind of overrate age a little bit too much. We kind of put too much stock into age. I mean, Terry McLaurin is a perfect example because he's almost 30 years old, even though he came off a season where he was elite. If you look at Terry McLaurin from weeks 3 to the end, he was like a top 7 wide receiver. First couple of weeks weren't so good, but after that, we're awesome. But because he's almost 30 years old, he's wide receiver 30. Like, Terry McLaurin's probably going to be a top 15, top 20 wide receiver at worst if he's healthy. But we rank him as wide receiver 30 because of age. Ricky Pearsall is kind of in that range of guys that, to me, it's going to be really hard for them to increase their value. Guys like Mike Evans, Ayuk, Godwin, Tyreek Hill. There's some other younger players in there. Luther Burden, Jaden Higgins kind of mixed in there as well. But like to me, Ricky Pearsall is like if he has a good season, he's going to move up. And not a lot of guys in this range are going to do that significantly. And I mean like significantly move up to like top 20, top 24 potentially. That being said, what's the negative case for Pearsall? Well, it's the 49ers. They never really hyper target anyone. You still have George Kittle there. You still have potentially Ayuk. I know he might not start the season, but Ayuk coming back. Obviously you have Juwan Jennings is there, and I think Juwan Jennings is just one of those players that like Shanahan trusts, especially in like the run game and to run block and things like that, which I don't know if Ricky Pearsall, if he's going to trust like part of Shanahan's offense is the run game, that like they build their offense to like around the run game, and they need wide receivers that are have the ability to run block. Even guys like Demarcus Robinson, I think is like a sneaky, could affect Pearsall a little bit more than we like, and then plus McCaffrey coming back. So there's a little bit of like remember Brandon Ayuk year 2? Like, oh, we had some breakout games year 1 for Brandon Ayuk, and then year 2, he was a huge disappointment because of, some maybe Shanahan not really trusting him or the work ethic stuff and things like that. I'm not trying to put that on Ricky Pearsall, but like I know Shanahan really likes his veteran guys, and this is why they paid Juwan Jennings. So that's kind of like the bear case for Ricky Pearsall, in my opinion. Jerry Jeudy is up next year, and I think Jerry Jeudy is an incredible, incredible value. I think he's like a really, really damn good value, in my opinion. Um, Jerry Jeudy, that is, and um, from wide receiver 39 to 35, and you just look at this receiving room, especially if Joe Flacco is the starter for at least like 10, 12 games or so, even if it's just that 10, 12 games is a majority of the fantasy regular season. I mean, it's Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, Deontay Johnson. That's the 1, 2, 3. I know people are, Cedric Tillman kind of broke out last year. You go look at like his numbers. He had like 2 or 3 good games. It wasn't like he had this crazy breakout or anything like that. And so, sure, Cedric Tillman is there, but like Deontay Johnson, are you worried about? David Bell, Jamari Thrash, like it's really Jerry Jeudy and Njoku, and then I don't know what else. And so we're looking at a situation where like Jerry Jeudy could put up huge, huge numbers potentially, and as like really the only option for Cleveland. So keep an eye on Jerry Jeudy, man. If you can buy low on him, if someone's valuing him as like a wide receiver 3, I think Jerry Jeudy at worst, his worst case scenario for next year, if he's healthy, is like a top 24 guy, and his best case scenario is like top 12. Like that's kind of how I'm viewing Jeudy. So if anyone's viewing him less than that, go out and buy low on him. Last wide receiver here is Josh Downs. And I really think Josh Downs is a very good player. He's just in an unfortunate situation. Like if Josh Downs was on another team that could actually throw the ball or something like that, like we would be very, very high on Josh Downs. I mean, he's had back-to-back good years. It just hasn't been anything fantasy relevant really because of the lack of either receptions or touchdowns, but he's had back-to-back years. 68 catches, 770 yards is a good rookie year. Follows that up with 72 catches and 800 yards while missing 3 games. So he increases his receptions per game by 1, his yards per game by 12. Like you give him essentially 15 more catches is what he would have had theoretically if he played those 3 games, and we're looking at 87 catches. He would have had another about 150 to 160 more yards. So we're talking about a guy that was on pace for close to 90 catches and over 950 yards. It just comes down to the offense and like, can Anthony Richardson put things together? Obviously they added the Tyler Warren. They have a lot of like good players, no great. They have Pittman, Alec Pierce, who actually led this team in receiving yards. Josh Downs, Tyler Warren, guys like this. Maybe Adonai Mitchell or something. But like you look at some of his numbers when like Flacco was the guy, like he was just being peppered with targets. So unfortunately, they don't have a Flacco. It's Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson, which I'm not really confident in either one of those guys. But man, if Josh Downs could ever get to a team or ever be in a situation where like they're throwing the ball more and he has an accurate quarterback, he could be really damn good. Really, really damn good. Isaiah Likely into the tight ends here, from tight end 11 to tight end 9. I don't in what world should Isaiah Likely be ranked over? Well, first of all, ranked this high, but ranked over a guy like Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews, by the way, was still like tight end 7 last year, despite sucking the first 4 weeks. I think he had like 12 points the first 4 weeks of the season, and then from that point on was really good, led tight ends and touchdowns. In what world should Isaiah Likely be ranked this high? Isaiah Likely, if Mark Andrews is healthy, I'm sorry to say, is just not going to play more than 60% of the snaps. I would be pretty. I mean, even last year, he played in 59.9% of the snaps. He had, down the stretch, he was getting more, more snaps and stuff. But he had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games under 60% of the snaps, under 55% of the snaps. So I just don't see it. Like, he had one big game and that's about it. Like, he had one big game in week 1 and people fell in love with him. And then I would say he had 3 other games the rest of the year where it was like you would have been happy with what you got if you started him. That's it. That's it. I just don't see it. I'm sorry. I don't see it. This team, I don't think likely you're going to need injuries for it to happen. Like probably multiple injuries, either to Bateman and to guys like to Rashad Bateman or Mark Andrews or something like that. I personally just don't see it. And I think like his ranking this high is like an easy sell high. Johnny Smith from 22 to 17. It's good to see Johnny Smith move up a little bit. I don't know why he was always ranked as low as he was. I know there's kind of trade rumors coming out, which would be great for the Dolphins players, but it would be terrible for Johnny Smith, in my opinion. I kind of expect a little bit more of what Johnny Smith did last year. Like, I don't, not necessarily more, maybe slightly less, but like very similar to what he did last year. I think this is how this team wants to run this offense, and their offense was not that bad when Tua was playing. I know it wasn't the same; it was more of a dink and dunk, but it wasn't. It wasn't quite what we. It wasn't quite what we expected, is what I'm trying to say. So, it wasn't quite like the 2023, I guess I should say, like the air and out kind of boom play. So I think Johnny Smith is just a solid tight end. I'm looking to down tier. Like, man, if I can get Johnny Smith plus for Isaiah Likely, that would be insane. And then last tight end here is Gunnar Helm. Um, I think Gunnar Helm, looking at the rookie tight ends that were drafted last year, you can make a case that like Gunnar Helm has potentially the best situation. It's hard to argue it against guys like Tyler Warren, but like because he's the clear cut tight end one. But in terms of like the target competition and the quality of the quarterback as a passer, like I think it's a better situation. I think Gunnar Helm takes over for Chigakonkwo just because I don't think this team Chigakonkwo is like a tweener. I don't think you really want to be using him. I mean, even Chigakonkwo last year wasn't playing that many snaps in his first few years. He played 60% of the snaps last year, like nowhere near what a starting tight end is. And so if Gunnar Helm can be like the blocker and receiving tight end, he could kind of just take over this tight end position room. And if he does that, he has a better situation than Colston Loveland. You can argue he has a better situation than Tyler Warren just because of target competition and quality of quarterback. Mason Taylor, you can't really make that argument. He has a better situation than Terrence Ferguson, than Elijah Arroyo, than Harold Fannin, than any other tight end taken after him. So, like, it's kind of like him and Mason Taylor in terms of if he takes over the starting job that have the best situation. So, like, Gunnar Helm to me, like, he's been on waiver wires, like not even drafted in rookie drafts, even in tight end premium rookie drafts. I think I got him off the waiver wire in one of our rookie drafts, or he's going in the 4th round. Like, I would be 100% grabbing Gunnar Helm, who I think is a good tight end and has a really good chance at being the tight end one for the Titans. And who beyond Ridley? And Ridley, by the way, is not a target hog. Who beyond that are you that worried about on this team in terms of target share? So that's all I have for you guys. Appreciate you all. Make sure to hit the like and subscribe button. And okay, see you guys in the next video.